So, turns out, it's Yuta. I mean, technically, it is Gojo's body, but yeah, it's Yuta. You know, not much of an intro today, screw it. We got a lot to unpack and it's all pretty polarizing at the moment, so let's jump right into it. Picking back up where the last chapter left off, Yuji's digging into Sukuna's heart after landing a black flash, determined as hell after Choso's death, but he's interrupted by Gojo, actually in the flesh. Sukuna thinks it's impossible, but stitches are revealed on Gojo's forehead, and Sukuna's caught by surprise here, but quickly realizes and reveals to us all that it's Yuta inhabiting Gojo's body. And bro really says,
I owe you an apology, I wasn't really familiar with your game.
As he throws Yuji aside like a bag of trash and shows Yuta respect, calling him by his full name. Before I move on to the next panel, I just gotta say, it was a damn roller coaster reading these panels in sequence. The disbelief, seeing Gojo in the flesh, damn near falling to my knees when I saw the stitches, and then the biggest what the f moment when it's revealed to be actually Yuta. As always, we'll continue with the rest of the chapter and I'll provide more of my thoughts towards the end. Anyways, y'all already know it's time for a flashback. We see here that the students, not including Yuji, Todo, Kamo, or Choso, are debating whether Yuta using Gojo's body if he dies is something that they should do. Maki, of course, is completely opposed, but Hakari brings up a good point, saying that if all else fails, they'll be in no position to disregard possible options. And it's Panda who suggests that if Gojo loses, Rika can eat Kenjaku, copy his CT to move between bodies, and then Yuta would fight using Gojo's body. Kusakabe wonders why Yuta can't just copy the Limitless from Gojo's corpse, and Shoko responds that you can't use the Limitless without the Six Eyes. Shoko goes on to say that the Six Eyes can't be copied either because they're a physical trait, not a CT. And Maki brings up that the copy techniques can only be used during the 5 minutes that Rika is fully manifested, and asks what would happen to Yuta after those 5 minutes are up. Yuta admits he doesn't know in a small yet powerful panel. From here, Meimei states 3 reasonable possibilities. After the 5 minutes, Yuta will either 1. Die instantly, 2. Still die, just not instantly but eventually, or 3. Still be able to use the Limitless if Kenjaku CT allows him. But once he's transferred bodies, he might be giving up his copy technique for the Limitless and will proceed to live in Gojo's body for the rest of his lifetime. Yuta accepts and understands that this will have to be a last resort after he tries to fight in his domain using other copy techniques. Maki pushes back, saying that this hasn't been decided yet and that she doesn't like the plan one bit. But Yuta gets serious here, saying he's upset because no matter what they think, they should go with the plan, and Kusakabe thinks technically it works well on paper, but it's about the fact that it's not really humane. But Yuta says fuck all that and brings up a valid point about how they're going up against the strongest in history, and that if they can throw away their humanity to win, then they should do it without hesitation. Maki says that they just care about him, and this actually pisses off Yuta even more, because he really is keeping Gojo in mind more than anyone, making everyone question how important Gojo is to them, saying they've all pushed him to become a monster on his own, and insists that if Gojo is gone and no one else will be the monster, then he will. Man, this really hits because, of all people, to see Yuta like this, you know he's not playing around. And this really was foreshadowed in his conversation with Yuro, huh? Very interesting to see Yuta's ideals evolve in the face of true adversity, but more on that later. Yuta is dead ass, saying that if Gojo dies, he will take his body. On the next panel, we see him actually discussing this with Gojo himself. And it's a nice parallel because, just like Sukuna in his conversation with Yorozu about what she could do to his body if she beat him, Gojo doesn't plan to lose, so he doesn't care about what happens to his corpse in the case that he does die. But he is annoyed Shoko wasn't against it. More on that later as well. Yuta remembers that Yuro called him a Fujiwara back in the Cullen games, and asked Gojo because back in JJK 0 he told them they were distant relatives, both descendants of the Sugawara. And Gojo confirms both of these things again, and even brings up that both of those clans were even at odds with each other back then. And this is all written and illustrated in a way where it's possibly setting up a sort of reveal in the near future, because Yuta assumes that Yuro was probably mistaken, but Gojo says that it could be possible he's a descendant of both, and he reinforces this by adding that it would mean his bloodline is even more blessed than his own, and that it would suck if Yuta half-asses things now, telling him to work on his raw cursed energy and that it's not the first time he warns him about it. This all does kind of feel out of nowhere, though it's probable Gojo always saw something more in Yuta with his 6 eyes. But note how a candle is in panels, similar to the resonance panel when Todo is speaking a few chapters back. Not saying they're related at all, but I have a feeling both of these panels will be tied to some big reveals in the near future. Anyways, they meet up with the rest of the OG JJK Zero gang, Maki, Panda, and Inumaki, right before Gojo tells everyone to leave, but they straight up tell him no. It's revealed this is right before the murder of the higher-ups, as he says that this isn't something he would want them to witness, because not even he's certain that it's the right thing to do. But he knows it still has to be done if something like Shibuya is to not happen ever again. He insists again they leave, but they insist otherwise, and Yuta tells him that he doesn't have to try to be the monster alone anymore. Gojo thinks that's impossible though. It's been impossible ever since back then, when he was left behind, and that now he has to catch up, as he remembers Geto and the moment they parted ways. Flash forward, Amai's CT is revealed, and it's the manifestation of sugar being output after he's increased his own levels of glucose, with the only drawback being that he gets dizzy due to low blood sugar. So this technique reveals how Hana was able to survive getting thrown off a building after getting chomped by Sukuna like 50 chapters ago. Anyways, Amai is now a part of Shoko's medic squad along with Nita, the same guy that helped Yuji back in Shibuya. We see Yuta on a table back in Shoko's camp, cut in half like Gojo. He tells Shoko it's time, that they have no choice. She replies by saying that she finished the stitching on Gojo's body. So, as soon as Yuta moves in, he is to push his reverse curse technique to the max and get the body ready, and she asks Amai to help him. Yuta only apologizes to Rika, it looks like, for having to move his ring to his right arm. But back to the present, it's going down once again. Both Yuta and Sukuna open their domain expansions. The narrator states that Gojo had revealed the solution to Sukuna's open barrier domain, and we see the last panel of both Infinite Void and Malevolent Shrine clashing once again as the revenge match begins. I don't even know what to say, where to start. Just when I thought things couldn't get any crazier. I'll admit it, it took me a minute to organize my thoughts. I mean, for starters, it's good to see at least a version of Gojo face off against full-form Sukuna. I think that's something that a lot of people like myself kind of wish took place in the original fight, though I understand why it didn't. It's still nice to see it take place, even if it might be kind of weird under these circumstances. When it comes to Yuta, I'm really intrigued by the idea of there being more to tell with his character, especially in the direction taken. I'm specifically talking about his decision to be willing to abandon his humanity and become a monster in order to reach Sukuna's level. I'll be honest, I didn't think we'd get much more character development from Yuta in what remained of the story, but this changes everything. Because though the next chapters should be very exciting, I believe Yuta has put himself in a very dangerous position here. Some might think that Yuta wins here, while Yuji watches from the sidelines, and that then we get the merger or whatever, but I think that would probably suck straight up, and I don't really think it's gonna happen anyways. Instead, I think Gojo's body, like Geto's, will ultimately suffer 2 deaths. I don't see Yuta winning here. He might bring Sukuna even closer to death and expose some more weaknesses, really moving the needle even more. But narratively speaking, I see major death flags around Yuta right now. Though I think him willing to do what others couldn't is really f***ing good from a storytelling perspective, I think it will cost him. Yuta's throwing away his previous ideals and pretty much adopting the same ones as Sukuna's. And if Sukuna's ideals are to be proven wrong, like the story has been setting up so far through Yuji, then Yuta will lose here. There only is one Sukuna. Only he has been able to cast aside his humanity completely long ago. For Yuta, who has always fought for love, to pretend he can just flip the switch and become a monster on the level of Sukuna will be amazing to see, I won't lie, but an example will be made of him. I truly believe this. No agenda here, I love Yuta, but I also like reading the themes the story likes to throw around pretty closely. And with Yuji's recent developments as well, I think Sukuna throwing Yuji aside like he still sees him as nothing is totally intentional on Gege's part, and the readers getting mad because of it fall right into it. Let's keep in mind, Sukuna is the real monster, and it's already been revealed who's the one on par with his potential. born from his own genetic material. And if Yuji screaming like a demon, digging into Sukuna's heart, this very chapter doesn't make that obvious enough, then I don't know what does. Yuji will be the one to match that monstrosity if he hasn't already, without throwing away his ideals, without casting aside his humanity. Yuji will rival Sukuna on his own terms, proving his own ideals right. Yuta's arc, though, is beautiful, I won't lie, but will most likely end tragically. However, I liked him before, and I love him even more as a character now. He isn't perfect, like it's always seemed, but he is the only one that really tried to understand Gojo and cared for him the most. Always willing to take the burden off of his sensei's shoulders, even after his death. And for me, that in itself is peak writing in shonen, and overshadows all of my disagreements with the direction Gege has decided to take this chapter. Originally, I was a lot more torn on seeing Gojo back in this way, but the more I think about it, still, even writing this, the more I actually have come around to like it. Even Gojo's body still being used as a weapon proves how Jujutsu sorcerers have always been used. And the fact that his own student felt forced to do something like this in order to have a better chance at winning only hammers that point home. It might not feel perfect, but this chapter has only added to the legacy and impact Yuta and Gojo especially will have left in the story when it's all said and done. And I've come to realize part of liking JJK is understanding and accepting that all bets are off when it comes to anything dark, taboo, or just flat out weird, bro. Only two things I don't like from this chapter. I see the discourse regarding Shoko not caring about what's done with Gojo's body, and the thing is, I'm not surprised. It's kind of in line with everything we know about her. Though not much is actually backed up in story, and this is mostly headcanon. I've always seen Shoko as the one so traumatized that she has pretty much become insensible to it all at this point, after everything she's seen and gone through. She, just like Gojo and Geto, coped in her own way, and I would just like that about her fleshed out a bit more. Also, this chapter adds up to why Kenjaku's death was done so abruptly, which is still kind of disappointing, considering Gege might not be rushing the series to end it, but it definitely feels like he doesn't give himself enough breathing room to execute things properly sometimes, because of the story's crazy pace. But what do I know? It's just my opinion, and I'd like to know yours below. Leave a comment. Final thoughts, I wouldn't be surprised if the whole Fujiwara thing comes into play soon, as well as, I don't know why, but I have a feeling Yuta might make a binding vow here too. Probably to use Gojo's body for more than 5 minutes, or to keep his ring as well as Rika or something. Who knows? Either way, I'm excited as hell to see where things go from here. No surprise there's break next week, so it'll be a minute. I'm gonna have a video I'm working on out either way, so stick around for that. If you're still here, I appreciate you more than you think. What are your predictions for next chapter? Drop them below. But that's all for this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Much love and take care. Peace.